we decided that we're going to wear this to your wedding because Lionel Richie had it on the other night in American Idol. So that's how we're coming to the wedding. What do you think?
The rehearsal dinner. That's a milestone.
Right this way.
Thank you, Vanna White.
This day, thanks for this celebration, thanks for this upcoming marriage. We just pray a blessing on James and Sarah, and bless our time tonight, and give it to you. Amen.
James, I've got your first drink. What do you want? Margarita? Yeah.
Hello.
Margarita. Sorry, I don't want to be
Hello. Rehearsal dinner. It's finally here.
Yay.
So this is Crimpy Kendra, and the way we remember it is she's got a little nose ring kind of crimped into her nose. Crimpy Kendra.
Crimpy Kendra, like the outdoorsy
This is Callie the cutie.
Callie the cutie.
Yes.
The
Okay.
outdoorsy cutie one.
All right. Okay,
Sarah's
that's how we
favorite.
remember.
Sarah's favorite. Okay. My nickname is Motormouth Megan.
And why is that?
Because I like to chat a lot.
Okay, well, we got you pegged now.
We sure do.
And this, last but certainly not least, is Sarah the Sweet, whose nickname is Peanut.
Princess Peanut.
Princess Peanut. Okay.
And it was nearing college. He'd registered for college. He was going to go shopping on Monday for college, and college was like 1 month away. He'd gotten his class and dorm and computer, and everything was set to go for college. And we went to this one painting job, and I said something about, and then we're in this room, and I said, James, now be careful when you paint around the window or something like that. And he said, what window? And there was one window in the room. and about that same day or whatever, he announced that he didn't want to go to college anymore. And he wanted to go into the Marines instead. And it was very tense around there. And I said, James, if you ask those questions like what window, and there's only one window, if you ask that in the Marines, they're going to just crush you. So
There was a skylight.
anyhow, so that's an example of a story, okay? So,
I'm Uncle Roger. When he said, would you give a toast for James and Sarah at the rehearsal dinner, I thought, I have no idea how to do that. So I took Lego and put them together, and it was an L shape, and that was his gun. So this was a clue early on as to what kind of career he was going to find himself in. And he told me, don't touch my gun, because he had to go and check on something else, a frog or a twig or whatever. So he set his little Lego L down and said, don't touch my gun, and ran over and did whatever he was going to do. And at the end of that visit, I was living out of state at the time, and so I went back to California where I was living, and his mother, Grace, told me, oh, James did the cutest thing. He had a quarter and a nickel, and he put it in the mailbox. And I said, his mother said to James, James, what are you doing? I'm sending it to Uncle Roger. So when I heard that story, I thought, oh, this kid is special. So anyway, just a little story, not too terribly embarrassing, I hope. Let's see, I'm supposed to point to the love it shows. Well, let's see, it shows that I'm fond of James, but what's a good story for the two of them? When James wanted to propose to Sarah, he called us in advance, and we live out in Colorado, and he said, I want to propose to Sarah, but I want it to be a special place. So we found a special place, but it turned out to be way too scary. It was up at the top of like a 200-foot embankment, and it was a rappelling station. And it was winter, and we had to like snowshoe up there. But he wanted to make an impression. He wanted to pick a place that would be great to propose. So we got up there, and he looked down and said, I'm scared, Uncle Roger. Let's go down a little farther. So we went a little farther.
I said I don't want her to be distracted when we're climbing down and die.
So, always thinking of his bride, we went to a slightly lower elevation, and he popped the question. And we were very gratified and grateful to be allowed to be part of that special moment. Let's see, hopes for happiness in the future? Well, of course, we're all hoping that James and Sarah are just the happiest couple that can possibly be. They deserve each other, and I mean that in the best way. James, you deserve to have somebody who loves you and tolerates all your crazy quirks. And Sarah, you deserve a good, steadfast, solid man who can be your rock to lean on, and the two of you can be hand in hand together as you journey through life. So I think the last thing is raise the glass.
All right.
So here's to James and Sarah. Many years of happiness. And we love you.
Do you want to be friends with me? And you said, of course I want to be friends with you. And that's how our friendship started. And shortly after, I met James. I don't know when, James, or where. But to follow that was many stories of space in the library. And many movies and TV series later. And we've been friends ever since.
It's not embarrassing, is it?
No, I won't do that one. I won't do the one you know. I'm Megan. I met Sarah in high school, like 10th grade. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was 10th grade.
Probably.
And when we were juniors, we were in world studies together, and we had a long-term like sub that we liked to mess with a lot and whatever. But anyway, it was the first day of the class, and the teacher wanted us to go around and say who we were and say something interesting about ourselves. And so we go around and everybody says things or what they did last summer or whatever. And Sarah's sitting there and she goes, "I'm Sarah. I don't know, I got freckles all over me."
I use the quadruplet.
Yeah.
All too much.
Well, yeah, you were sick of that one. And then in that same class, like after spring break, everyone was talking about what they did over spring break, and Sarah, like, it was unlike her. I didn't think she'd like pull it off. She just on the fly made up this whole story about how they went on vacation somewhere
To like New York.
to New York, and then all their baggage got lost, and like had this horrible like flight cancellation, baggage loss, like whole huge story, and like didn't tell the like you told the teacher like 2 weeks later like that I totally made all that up. But that's what I can remember.
About him, and I can't tell any of them. So I got this one approved. So, and you'll have to help me remember it. Okay, so how old were you?
Like 8.
Okay, so I came home from work, and his face was white, and I thought, James, what happened? And I looked over by his bed, and he had started a little fire on his pillow. What'd you say? You had set off a firecracker?
Yeah, I was like playing chicken with myself with a lighter and a firework.
You were only at 8.
And I lit it, and then I didn't know what to do, so I threw it under my pillow and just let the bed eat it.
And luckily it had flame retardant on it. It just had a major hole drilled down into it. So I think I just said to you, is that gonna happen again? And he was like, that's one I could tell. That's what it was like to be with you.
How determined she is when she makes up her mind to do something. She learned to ride. The other girls had learned to ride their two-wheel bike. So Sarah took the training wheels off, and she was not going home until she knew how to ride that bike, because after all the competition level, and she knew how to do it, the others. She stayed outside and rode that bike into the rock flower beds at least 25 times. She was skinned up, but by the end of the day, she rode that bike.
Yeah, I did. I was determined.
We like to make an impression. So the first day that she comes to our house, she literally slides into the car, our car, and the alarm's going off, and we're like, oh, that must be Sarah. She's arrived, so she just slid right into our car. So it was really cute. It was really cute. And then with James, there's just 2 quick ones. I remember back with Roger's story with the weapon. Right away at the beginning when I met you, you're outside, and I go outside, and you're hot and sweaty, and I'm like, what are you doing, James? You got these sticks in your hands, and you go, I'm making a weapon. So it's like, boy, if he doesn't end up with something in his future with weapons, and sure enough, there you go. That was pretty cool. Another one, though, that's fun for me is, and Uncle Roger captured this on video, you went through this stage in your growing up where you loved the long hair. loved long hair, and he loved to do all this, and so it, it just flowed. And so here we are in Colorado one time, and we're in Colorado, and gonna go horseback riding, and the guy says to me, "So, do you need horses for each of your daughters?" So anyhow.
So we had our bus stop right at the end of our driveway, so we got to determine who got on the bus, when, and at what time. So yeah, it was great. All of us did. Yeah, I know. And I vividly remember this because our photographer from the Star Tribune was all there to document it at the time, and the bus wasn't coming. Still wasn't coming, and we just didn't know where the bus was. And Sarah was at the end of the line waiting for the bus, and this little voice just chirps up and says, "Mom, where the hell is the bus?" And that's probably the last time Sarah has ever sworn in her entire life. So that's a good one. All right, Kendra Megan. So, when we were younger, she was a big instigator, but she was the cutest. So she would pick fights and get people to do bad things, like grab the electric fence and then say, "No, I didn't."
I never did. You guys all did.
See, she's trying to lie right now. White lies, James. No. When things go missing at your house, and Sarah says she did not take them, and no, I have no idea where they went. It was Sarah. It was always Sarah. She's really bad at lying. Have you noticed? She's very bad at lying. She won't fess up.
I've noticed that some of our stuff goes missing when you guys come over.
But I don't think I lie about it. Like if a dress goes missing, I think I say, "Oh yeah, I took that." But at a certain place, at a certain time. Always estimate like an hour later.
15 minutes.
You will be late for a lot of events. At least an hour. That's graceful. You can either tell her the wrong time.
It's James's fault.
Or just know that she will never be on time.
I'll be on time tomorrow.
He was kind of rough. He was, the language was kind of rough, and he was. It's not exactly the person you see today. And Sarah stuck with him. And the determination, you could see that in Sarah's being determined in regard to James, and that's to your really credit. And you'll be. I'm really thankful you're coming together here in marriage. But kudos to you for, staying with James until he smoothed out a little.
So Sarah and I lived next to James in college, and we got invited over to their house party when they had moved in, and Sarah and James hit it off right away. He thought she was cute. And I remember Sarah saying like, "Oh, he's so cute. He wants to take me out on a date." And she told me he was a Marine, and I kind of thought like, whoa, that's a long road. That's a lot to take on. Are you prepared for that? And she didn't really have an answer at the time. But I could tell by the many times that she was going over there and you were spoiling her that, wow, this is a real thing. Like, oh my gosh, she's taking this on. And I feel like I can speak for a lot of people in this room. We're so blessed that somebody who has not only a background in the Marines, but a very criminal justice, that she will always be protected. Thank you.
Sarah, do you remember when what the name is of my GPS?
Emma.
She's got a good memory. I pick her up from school one day, and we're driving home, and I don't remember how we got to it, but she said, you know, Grandpa, when I have children, my first girl's name is going to be Emma. So I said to her, okay, Sarah, so let's call this gal that talks to me all the time on the GPS, we'll call her Emma. So that is Emma, and the GPS has been called Emma ever since. But Sarah, the story about the bus is the one that just really sticks out in my mind. I mean, it does. Where the hell's the bus, Mom?
Where we're from.
But we were visiting one time, amongst many, and the girls were in bed, supposedly sleeping. However, it got quite noisy downstairs. So Naomi got up and went down and said, girls, quiet. It's time to go to bed. She came back up, and she hardly hit the top step, and it was just as loud as ever. So she said to Jim, you go down and talk to him. So Jim went, came back up. I don't think he made the second step before it was over. And so as we're sitting there, it gets louder. Finally, Naomi turns to her mother and says, Mom, would you go down and talk to him? So Marilyn gets up, goes down, and she's down a little while, not very long, and she comes back up, and she's laughing like crazy. So what's so funny? Well, she said, I told them, girls, it's time for bed, and you need to be quiet and go to sleep. And she said, I turned around and went up the stairs, got about halfway up, and this little voice speaks out, you're not in charge here. And that little voice was Sarah. But I'll tell you something, Sarah, be careful. She was in charge, and she still is.
And I don't really have a lot of stories about Sarah because we kind of got like our own thing going on. And my favorite part about my friendship with Sarah is that we can go out to eat anywhere and I never have to buy anything because Sarah gets this like huge plate of food, right? I'm like, Sarah, you're not gonna be able to eat all that. She's like, I can do it. And I'm just like, I don't think you can. I just sit there and I wait, and 10 minutes into the meal, there's this giant plate of food, and we just share it. That's all we do. So that's my favorite part about my friendship with Sarah. And then my story about James, because when I first met James, I was not pleased with him. I don't know why. I'm just like, Sarah's like my little half pint, so I'm very protective over her. I'm a very protective person. And I remember, like, Sarah's like, I can't wait for you to meet James. He's like really special. I'm like, And so I met James, and we're just kind of hanging out at their apartment, and it's just like this awkward silence because I'm not really sure I want to like, really get to know him because I like Sarah more anyways. And he kind of looks at me and he's like, so do you like space? Sure. And then the next like 20 minutes, it was just literally James telling me fascinating things about space. And that was how I got to know James. And a few weeks later, James found out that I was trying to get into med school. So I want to be a doctor. And one thing to know about James, if you don't, and Sarah knows this, is that James always thinks he's dying of something very serious. Once James found out I was interested in medicine, probably about every 4 to 6 weeks, I got a phone call from James. Taylor, I got a medical question for you. All right, I'm not a doctor, but okay. So I got this thing, and it looks like this, and I read online that it could be this, 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 and this, and I know that I probably don't have it, but I'm pretty sure I have it.
Tell me I don't.
I would get these calls like all the time. And honestly, it's been like a while, so I'm kind of proud of you. I feel like you're getting away from it. It's what we call in the biz illness anxiety disorder. But yeah, so that's how me and James got to know know each other. Very fond of you guys, and you know that I love you both so much. James, we're basically the same person anyway, so that actually worked out pretty well. So I know both Bryce and I just wish you guys the best, and we love you.
And I don't know if it was first, second time he was there. He uncased his AR-15, showed me that. I thought, oh, this is neat. So we sold the farm and moved up to Buffalo, and they came to visit. And James pulls out I think it was a Glock, 9mm, double stacked, 14 rounds. Look at this. Jeez, that's really neat, you know. And so I went in the bedroom, got my 1911 45, showed him what a real pistol looked like. And anyway, I thought, geez, this is my kind of guy, you know? Comes into the house, pulls out a weapon and shows you how it works and everything. This is great. I love this guy. So, thank you, James.
We met at boot camp. The first thing I remember about James is him just getting absolutely destroyed on a regular basis by the drill instructors. Daily, multiple times a day. Couldn't stay out of trouble.
I was small.
Easy pickings. Fast forward 3 months, and we were both late to MCT, and I was like, I like this guy. Good style. We roll in late together. Spent the next 3.5 years together with absolutely no shenanigans, and nothing illegal ever happened, and that's it.
I guess I'll start talking about Silas. It's been really fun watching him start to develop a little personality, and part of the reason that's been fun is I'm watching for traces of my brother in him. And that's been fun and also terrifying because you gathered from the stories that James was a lot to handle as a kid. So we'll see. But one of my favorite stories from growing up is we lived for a lot of our childhood with my mom in an apartment where we had these really nice courtyards. And there was one courtyard in one of the buildings that had a pond, and we would go hang out there together, have all kinds of adventures. And one particular day, I think we were sticking sticks into the snails that lived in the pond and kind of flinging them into other locations of the pond. Just kind of casual brother and sister fun. And the next thing I maybe turned my back for a second. He was probably 5 or 6. And I look around and he is neck deep in the pond. And he says, oh, I got it. And he emerges with a fish in his bare hands. We'll see what Silas has in store. Hopefully just some tame nature craziness. I don't know. That's all I got.
Start with when we used to go visit Grandma and Grandpa Eisman out in North Dakota in Bowman. And Grandma and Grandpa liked to go golfing a lot. And they would usually just take 2 of us at a time, switch after a week. And Sarah, Peanut, we just always used to, the golf carts that used to have like that metal rack in the back? That was Sarah's spot.
Grandpa, you remember that?
Yeah. She didn't get to sit in the seat.
Ever.
We would shove her back there. And then I just remember one time when we were golfing with Grandma, and most people put like a quarter where their ball was. And Sarah was like, why is Grandma doing that? And Sarah just walks over and picks up the quarter. And Grandma's like, no, I need to do that so I know where my ball is. And she just kept doing it through the 9 or 18 holes or whatever. Do you remember, Grandma? So, steal her. And the other story I have is we were probably, 6, 7. So we used to have 2 bunk beds downstairs. And Sarah used to share one with Megan. And we used to play, like Grandpa said, we used to be up really late. and Sarah liked to go play in the sink in the bathroom with Megan. and so Sarah's.
Probably Megan's.
Sarah's. And so one night, Dad just got really fed up that Sarah and whoever kept going in the bathroom and making noise. And so Callie, we vividly remember this. Dad snuck down the stairs when they were in the bathroom and hid under Sarah's bunk bed. And Sarah had the top bunk, so she had to climb the ladder. And here comes Megan walking back, hops in her bunk bed, and Sarah's traveling behind her and like walks up the ladder, and a hand just grabs her leg. And Sarah screams. And she's like, and runs upstairs to Mom.
Still sleeping with my light on, Dad.
There's a ghost under my bed. And she's like, go to bed, it's just your father. So Sarah never left her bed.
Probably never did
after.
The teams together, and it was 2 and 2. And I remember being 6, and my dad was the coach of our team. I swear it was
Callie and Kendra, and then Megan and Sarah.
Okay, I think it was Callie and Kendra that were on our team. And I remember in the championship game, it was us versus the team that Megan and Sarah were on. And I remember they quarreled all the time. Like, to this day, you can't be in a room with them without them, like, talking over each other. And, no, you took my sweater. No, you took. It's ridiculous. So I remember being on the field as a 6-year-old, and someone was, like, trying to take the ball from the other one. And I think you pushed one of your sisters over, and I remember it because she blamed it on Megan. I swear. I swear. But nothing's changed, and I'm so happy for you guys, and I love you. And I'm sure there's so many more stories, but they're all slipping away. So I don't know.
But I agree that she can't eat very much. Now, when I come, I'm not at the shop all the time. But when she does, it's usually like some dinky little amount of vegetables or something that I don't know how could make you live. But she can eat a lot of pizza though, because we went to a class. I think my dad was with, and they brought in pizza or whatever, and they're like big slices. I had 2, and I was like, that's it, And she packed in 3 of those slices of pizza. And me and my dad were like, no way. Like, how would that fit in there, And then we were talking about it the next day, and she's like, I haven't eaten since.